This is a great opportunity for you lenders that want to get into an asset class that is safe.
That affordable housing, it's not a trend. It's never been a trend. It's always been a tidal wave. It's always been a necessary part of the housing market.
There is no way that the prices can continue to go up and we don't have a massive collapse.
These are awesome returns in a safe way.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Wealth Webinar in force and happening right now. Today, I'm super pumped about this because this brings me back to when I was a kid. We're going to show you something, and I think, honestly, what you're going to learn about today is one of the things that just about every real estate investor has missed. The one opportunity that's been right under their nose the entire time, but they haven't seen it and they haven't paid attention to it. And as my other video that I was playing just before this would have shown, they are going to miss this. But none of you are. So we've got a bunch of people piling in, up to 154 at this point, and more will be on. We're going to talk about affordability when it comes to housing. Because when I grew up, I'll never forget, one of the places I spent the most amount of time at was my grandma's house, my grandma and grandpa's house. And they lived in what was called the Village. What the Village was, folks, was an affordable housing community of mobile homes. Yep. My grandparents, the entire time I knew them, lived in a mobile home. And I loved every minute of it. I loved the neighbors. I'd go around and clean windows. They'd throw me $1 or $5. I would go up to the store, which was a 7-Eleven. I'd get my Slurpee. I'd ride my BMX everywhere. And I had a ton of friends. And you know what? As a kid, I didn't know anything else. This was just the life. This is just what I did. This is just where Grandma and Grandpa lived. And I spent almost every weekend out there. But the one thing that's kind of happened, and I've seen this multiple cycles, I've seen how affordable housing has been super popular. Let's go back during the pandemic. And even before that, let's go back to the Great Recession. Affordable housing was all the rage. Everybody wanted it. Warren Buffett was buying up mobile home parks left, right, and center because it was a good investment. But then all of a sudden, after the pandemic ended, after everybody got their payouts from the government, after everybody started using all the money they had, because at that point, money was easy flowing. Banks were lending all over the place. Government was printing, what, $5.2 trillion or something like that. It just seemed like the golden ages. It was the roaring, not 20s, but the roaring 2020s. And after that period of time, when money started drying up, like I was showing you in that video, I bring it right full circle to now, where here are some of the stats. This is the problem, as I like to talk about it. National debt, $36.21 trillion. Okay. Average household debt in this country, $105,000 per household. Housing right now, in terms of if you wanted to buy a house, hopefully you're part, and actually I know all of you are, but hopefully the rest of the folks out there are part of the 25% that can actually afford to buy a house. Because 75% of Americans cannot afford a house when the median home price is over $160,000. That just is so hard for me to articulate in my mind. I mean, I guess it's been a while, but back when me and my wife were flipping a lot of houses, you know, so from 2006 to 2019, we'll say, I mean, housing was like 200s. You could buy a house, $100 and some a square foot in this area, and now you can't even touch one for under 250 a square foot. So a lot has changed, and because of that, debt has blossomed. And most American households are in debt. And right now, we're starting to see a trend that I don't like, but we talk about it a lot. Repossessions, defaults, delinquencies. They're all on the rise, but not just a little bit. I'm talking a lot. So much so that that video I just started playing, which, hey, if any of you want to do me a solid, I'm going to give you that video that I was just playing. And that video literally lays out everything that I'm talking about, lays out all the opportunities, the debts, and everything else. So I'll put that over here in the chat. So if any of you want to go on to YouTube, I'll ask, if you go on my YouTube channel, please, please, please click the subscribe button, because you know what? That's the way I know that the content I'm putting out is being used. So please throw me a like, throw me a subscribe. There's the video. But let's get into one other thing. Families are simply being priced out. You got the hedge funds like BlackRock and Blackstone just buying up neighborhoods all over the place. You've got most developers out there developing these luxury apartment complexes, these multifamily apartment complexes. And listen, I'm not going to call anybody out, but most folks, not just a few years ago, were just talking multifamily, luxury, mixed use, all these glorious, beautiful looking buildings, these syndications, if you will, because there was lots of syndications being raised for these unbelievable luxury apartment complexes, to which right now in this country, 500,000 luxury apartment complexes are under construction right now. But what is the need right now? Is it luxury apartment complexes? Is that what people need? Is that what they can afford? Or is it affordable housing that they need? Affordable housing, by definition, is about $1,334 a month or less in rent. That's what the national, surveys are saying that it is. And if you look at how many affordable housing complexes are being built, how many units? 6,800. 6,800 versus 500,000 luxury apartment complexes. You see, this is the big miss, folks. And this is what we're going to talk about today. But we're not going to just talk about affordable housing, mobile homes. I brought an expert on who I'm going to introduce in a second. We're also going to talk about where the opportunity lies on two sides of the fence. There really are only two sides of the fence, or two sides of the coin, as I like to call it, when it comes to money. There are, of course, people like all of you who have money. And every one of you has a problem. And that problem is you want to make more money. If I'm wrong about that, if any of you that have money on this webinar don't want to make any more money, please put I down in the chat, because I bet you any money nobody will put I, because everybody with money wants to make more, which is the problem that those folks have. The rest of the folks need money. They need money to go out and make more money. So when we talk about the two sides of the coin, heads and tails, every single one of you on here, almost 200 right now, fit on one side of the coin. You either have money and you want to make more, or you need money to make more money. So we're going to cover both sides of the coin today, but we're going to cover it in the context of what America really needs right now. And what America really needs is affordable housing, not luxury apartment complexes, not mega mansions or mini mansions or whatever you want to call them, not new builds, 460,000. America is crying right now for affordable housing. So we figured we'd bring it back front and center. We'd make it the popular rave, and we'd have an expert come on who hasn't been on in quite a while, talk to you about what he has always continued doing, because he always saw the bullseye, and that bullseye always landed right in the middle of affordable housing. So welcome, Chris Rood.
Hey, Chris, that was awesome, man. That was a really good speech, by the way. So I don't know how I'm gonna top that, but
I practiced like 10 days for that. No big deal.
were you reading off a chalkboard or something? Because that was too good.
No, I swear to God, it was straight off of it's all just up here. I've been talking about this for a while. I had my stats on this piece of paper, but yeah, I wasn't reading off the paper.
That was great, man. Yeah, look, I appreciate you coming on. You're an original ally, I would say, from years ago. Me and you have stayed close together for a while now, and you're right. I haven't been on in a while. Been working and hustling, trying to figure out what's where my next move is, and I figured out where my next move is there is no next move. I'm gonna keep doing what I've been doing, affordable housing, because now it's finally coming front and center, like you said. Everything's unaffordable. People laughed at me 10 years ago when I started buying mobile homes and mobile home parks. They said it's trailer park trash. I don't know why it's a depreciating asset. I don't know why you're buying that, Chris. But I couldn't make sense of like what you said. Everybody was going front and center of apartments, and high-end apartments where nothing made sense. The cap rates were so compressed. You'd be lucky to make $50 to $75 a door if nothing broke and everything went right and the sun, moon, and stars lined up. And I just couldn't make sense of it. And I'm glad I listened to my intuition and gut, and I stayed in the affordable housing space. And I'm excited to talk to you guys about what I got going on, what I'm seeing as far as trends, and what's making money for me today, because a lot's changed since 2022. You've had to make adjustments. People have had to switch their strategy and kind of recalibrate. And I've had to too. even though I'm in the affordable space, I'm doing a new strategy because a lot of you guys on here, I think, have lent to me on, single family home flips, and we're still doing some of that. But, we have migrated, so to speak, to a new strategy, which I call the trailer land home package, right? And that's where we're buying lots in rural areas right outside the city, and sometimes the cities too, if they allow zoning for mobile homes. And we're buying lots, and we're dropping brand new double wides and single wides and selling them for under 225,000 a piece on the double wides, and about 140 to 150,000 on the single wides. And we're selling these things within 2 to 3 weeks max. Some of them even going under contract all cash within 3 to 7 days in a lot of cases. And what we're seeing is we can sell these all day long like hotcakes within 30 days for 225 to sometimes 250 depending on the area, sometimes 200,000. But the process is super smooth. It's a lot of these mobile homes, a lot of people have a misconception that they fall apart. Well, there's a lot of new technologies come out. There's a lot of new products that has increased the stability, the integrity, and the structure of these trailers. They're not like they used to be, right? I was born in a trailer in 1981 in Lafayette, Louisiana. I grew up in a mobile home like Chris did, and I didn't know any better. And they had metal on the outside, and I mean it was home, right? But a lot of them were made out of a particle board. Chris, you remember the particle board on these trailers?
Absolutely.
If you get them wet, they get soggy, and they'd fall through the floor. Well, a lot of that's changed. You have a 3/4 inch treated plywood that's hard as a rock that you could spill juice, milk, whatever on, and it doesn't rot. So a lot of these trailers are in really, really good shape. I mean, some of these even look as nice as my home that I live in on the inside, the more higher end models. So it's not like you got to get that first conception out of your mind. Oh, this is slumlord living, or it's not nice housing. These houses are super nice. With that said, what we've been doing, and I highly advise you guys to do the same thing, because I told myself in 2000, I saw back in 2008 and 9 when the economy crashed, I was about 25, 26. I didn't have the wherewithal to understand what was going on. But I do remember, the feeling and what it was like. And it was pretty scary when I had my mechanic shops. I wasn't a full-time real estate investor back then, but I knew how scary it was. And thank God I was in something that was needed and wanted as a mechanic shop that was needed and wanted. And I survived that without going bankrupt. And I think we're kind of almost in another 2008 crisis. I don't think we're as quite there, not even close yet. I don't think Chris, you wouldn't say this is as bad as 2008.
No, it's not going to be like 2008, because it's not going to be a fallout so much in single family homes and private homes. It's going to be more of a fallout in the commercial space. And we're already starting to see the commercial cliff happening. So as these mortgages mature, these real estate owned mortgages mature, you're starting to see rates double. And a lot of these had 5, 7, and 10-year fixed rates at 3% in some cases, and now they're refining or maturing, and now they're going up to 6, 7, 8%, and it just becomes unaffordable. So we're talking about affordable housing, the real housing crisis, because that's what I'm calling it. It's not the same as it was in 08. It's a whole new animal built out of the commercial real estate, and largely because of the high interest rate environment we're in, and the complete miss by most developers to build the wrong product for the demand. Because everybody was rage is there's a housing shortage. There is absolutely still a housing shortage, but the housing shortage that everybody looked at was the wrong housing shortage. They looked at the wrong builds for what America and Canada and anywhere else in the world needed, and they built the wrong things.
Yeah, well, to add injury to insult, not only did interest rates go up, but insurance has doubled and tripled. Cost of material has doubled. Labor has doubled and tripled. Everything is just through the roof. And I made note when I first got into mobile home and mobile home parks back in 2016, I learned about it. I read an article about Warren Buffett, and he said, mobile home park investing is the wave of the future. And this is before I owned any mobile home parks. And I always remembered that. And Sure enough, everything he said back in that article that I read in 2016, inflation is going to outpace income. The college debt is going to just destroy people's ability to have a white picket fence and a brick on slab home like our grandparents and parents had. Just everything that you what would he said, the national debt is going to get out of control. Everything you see today, he's a fortune teller. He said this back in 2015, 14, and 16. I read about it, and he said affordable housing and mobile home parks are the wave of the future. And boy, was he right. I mean, we see it now. And I always remember that, and I stuck to not owning any apartments, sticking to affordable housing, even though they're pretty, they're not sexy. But right now, I'm in a good position with my mobile home parks where I do have some notes coming up that are going to re-amortize, and my interest rate's going to go from 5 or 6 to like 7.5. But my cash flow is so good that I can still cover that debt, right?
Chris, let me pause you right there because there's something interesting you said, and I think this audience needs to hear it. You said mobile homes are not sexy. Okay, affordable housing is not sexy. And I totally disagree because I think the whole definition of what's sexy and what's not has changed. Because here's what's sexy to me. When I drive by, and it's still there, the Village, Lockport, New York, where I grew up, when I drive by, I don't look at the mobile homes. I don't look at them. I think of how wealthy that guy and gal or family that owns that mobile home park is and how much money they've probably got in the bank. Now, when I think about sexy, I think sexy is how much cash you got in your bank, how much money you got liquid right now, not what your investment looks like. And I think that's where the investors went wrong. Like they were so caught up in these pretty beautiful buildings with all these facades and fake wood accents and everything. And then over here, you got this little box, which is the mobile home. And they're like, that's not sexy. But that is what puts money in the bank account, which makes you really sexy. And if nobody believes me, all I got to say is on social media, you can see photos all over the place of not good looking guys with absolutely beautiful women. And on the contrary, not so good looking women with really good looking model-esque boyfriends and husbands. So you want to tell me that sexy isn't the money in the bank? I'm going to tell you, you're looking at the wrong thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And, back to what I was saying about Warren Buffett, he called all this, and it's so true. And I stuck to my guns because when people were underwriting all these apartments, and I couldn't make sense of why everybody was buying all these apartments. I'm like, where's everybody? How and why? None of this makes any sense. And this is even in like 17, 18, 19, and 20. They were overpaying for stuff. And I'm like, how are they doing this? How does this make any sense? And now, everybody looks sexy and looks like a genius when everything keeps going up because you could buy something and 3 to 6 months later it was worth more. So inflation carried any mistakes you made as an investor and snowballed and washed away any mistakes, and you didn't have to have any fundamentals. And I stuck to my guns the whole time from 2016 when I started buying mobile home parks up until today. I stuck with the fundamentals. It had to make sense. It had to cash flow, and I'm glad that we did that now because we're in a lot better position than a lot of people that are just in apartments now. With that said, we had to make an adjustment with the single family home flips, right? Because interest rates went up. People, or you can't afford to buy a $400,000 or $500,000 house no more. And about 6-8 months ago, we had to, figure out, well, how am I going to cover up for the lack of revenue we're making from the flips? Because as you guys know, Naugle and a lot of you guys on Private Money Club lend me a lot of money on fix and flips, and some of you guys probably seen that slow down, but it's ramping up again. And that's because, the people just weren't wanting to sell their properties to get out of their low interest rate. And people just can't afford the new houses at a high interest rate. So I had to pivot. And that pivot came to me via a student of mine who had a mobile home dealership, and he wanted to come and see all of my mobile home parks. So he paid me to come spend a day with me at my house and office in Lafayette, Louisiana. And we rode around. And he was telling me how he can get trailers at cost. And he was telling me, hey, by the way, man, I flip double wides and I've done hundreds of them. And you should look into it. And I was like, dude, you flipping double wides. Tell me about that. And he told me the process of how he's buying land in the outskirts of the city and, getting the land for 10 to 20,000 an acre or 2 acres and dropping a brand new double wide. And he's making anywhere from 50 to 70, sometimes $80,000 a flip, and still giving an awesome product to the consumer that's getting a brand new product under 200,000 or under 225 with more square footage, the brand new product, and cheaper than a brick on slab single family home. I mean, for them to get a 2,000 square foot brick on slab house in most areas of the country is going to probably run 350 to 450, huh, Chris, for 2,000 square foot?
I would have to guess probably. And so let me just quantify what you just said. So he's just buying land, okay, out on the outskirts because the zoning and the approval process is easier, literally backing a double wide up on it, hooking it up and selling that with the land instead of trying to go out there and buy a mobile home park, which is going to cost a lot. And there's a lot of demand and there's a lot of headaches. And really, you can't even get a mobile home approved anymore because most towns don't want it. So he's just literally creating single family homes using a mobile home on a lot.
That's right. And he's buying big tracts of land, 10, 20 acres and developing, just putting a road through the middle. As long as you got frontage, putting a road through the middle and just stacking trailers on each side. Brand new double wides, 1,500 to 2,000 square foot, and selling them for anywhere from 200 to 225. And he's making anywhere from, depending on what he paid for the land, 50 to 70,000 a double wide. But just to go over the numbers, I mean, it's a pretty, you're picking up an acre of land for typically anywhere from 10 to 20,000 an acre. The trailer is costing us roughly about 75,000 is what it's cost, 75 to 80,000 depending on the model. And then our setup fee, so you got 20,000 for the acre, you got 75,000 for the trailer, so we're at 95,000. And then you have roughly 30,000 in moving and setup costs and all your subs, electrical, sewer, AC, skirting, things of that nature, right? So
I just Googled double wides, and is this what they look like nowadays?
Yeah, you can go, if you want to go to my website, Allies Wholesale Depot, where we sell these trailers, and if you want to do that, and I can show you some of the models that we're setting up and how nice they are. I mean, allieswholesaledepot.com, and I can show you the exact models that we are putting on land and flipping. I mean, so we're paying 20,000 for the acre, roughly, or less. 75,000 for the trailer, so that's 95, and roughly 30 to 35,000 in setup costs. So our all-in cost is roughly 125, and then we're retailing them for 225 to 200, depending on the market where you're at. Obviously, some areas in Florida we're getting more like 265, 275, and in Lakeland, Florida, outside of Tampa. Panama City, I'm getting more like 220, 225. I'm flipping these in South Georgia also. I'm getting around 215 to 220 or 200. And they fly off the shelf. They're super nice product. You can feel good about it. It's safe. You can make money, and you're not stressed about days on market or things of that nature where you're sitting on a house for 6-8 months before it sells, and you have to keep dropping the price. So the whole process of it is very clean. It's very affordable, and I feel good about it because I'm helping a lot of Americans get into a house with a lot of square footage. That's really nice. Yeah, it doesn't have a cement slab, but look, the trailer that I was born in 1981 was like a 1976 model, Chris. That trailer to this day is still there being rented out. I mean, it's probably been renovated 5-6 times, if I had to guess, in 40 years. Maybe every 8 to 10 years it's been renovated. But these trailers hold up better than you think. So if you worried about, and these trailers just don't hold up, they're this or that. I mean, yeah, if you're renting one, yes, they're going to get beat up way more than they would if you're just buying one to flip. Home ownership is what we're talking about. We do buy some to put in our parks. We buy brand new trailers to put in our parks, but we also buying these double wides to flip. And I'm telling you guys, this is the wave of the future. There is no way that the prices can continue to go up and we don't have a massive collapse. It is so out of control that builders, now don't get me wrong, there are spots in areas of the country that is such high demand because the average income might be, I don't know, 150,000 because people are well-to-do, where it doesn't matter. Affordable housing is not that big of a deal because people got money. But the vast majority of Americans cannot afford anything over 250 to 300,000. They just can't. And this fixes the problem. And a lot of people, a lot of blue collar guys that want a good old country boy that wants an acre or 2 acres of land and can get him a 15 to 2,000 square foot house, double wide, really nice amenities, stainless steel appliances, shiplap walls and accent pieces, backsplash, 4-bedroom, 2-bath on an acre of land is in good shape. A lot of people can afford that.
This one right here, the Mariner, that one looks like grandma's house. She had a double wide though, but
Yep.
you get the drift.
That's what we're selling for the single wides. We're selling those and dropping them for about 140. And retail, we're all in about 95 to 100, and we're selling them for 140, 150, depending on the area. And then the boon, you see the boon on the side? I click the boon. That's our moneymaker. Look how nice that thing is. Click that boon. Look at the inside of that.
Wow.
I can buy these for 75 to 80,000. Go through the pictures.
Crazy they can even build that for 75,000.
Yeah, well, this is why I'm a Clayton manufacturer or a distributor, because Clayton has got the best product for the best price. They got all their processes and systems down. Warren Buffett owns that company. I've been to their warehouse. I've been to their factories. They have everything so streamlined with their cost and price and their labor dialed in. They give the best product for the price. But who wouldn't live in that? I mean, now some people would say, well, Mama Rood was probably too bougie to live in that, but I could live in that. I know Chris could live in that and not feel bad about it.
No.
And you got 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, stainless steel appliances. Yeah, and you can get drywall. That's right. Darren said drywall. You can get drywall in it. Here's the digital tour. You can even upgrade and get quartz or granite countertops. I mean, it's a little bit extra, but this is what's going to fix the problem of affordable housing. If the prices of material, labor, insurance, and interest rates do not come down, this is the only thing that is affordable in America. Unless they come up, I think they're starting to come out with 3D copy or 3D houses, but I don't think the technology is there yet to put that out on mass scale. This is what's going to solve the affordability crisis. So whether the governments and the municipalities of the world want to or not, because they don't like these things, because one, it's not because they say they're dirty or ugly. They don't make a bunch of money on the property taxes. That's why they don't want mobile homes and mobile home parks. And you got to do this in the outskirts. But this right here is the most bang for the buck. I'm all into these things about 130 to 135. I'm retailing for 200 to 225. After realtor fees, closing costs, paying back my private money lenders, and setup costs, we're typically making anywhere from 50 to 60 grand, sometimes 40 if the comps don't support it. But there's nothing to feel ashamed about it. Some people say, man, how you sell all these mobile homes, and I don't feel bad about it at all. I would live in one of these. they had an expo in Biloxi about 2 months ago, and I got to walk through even the nicer models than that. We don't sell the nicer models because some of them get really expensive. Some of them our costs are 150 grand, 125 grand. And you can't retail those and make a whole lot of money. We have to stick to the boon is the best bang for the buck. That boon and that Explorer is what we're retailing. Then we have a couple other models that are a little bit nicer and a little bit lower end. Do they have full size amenities? They do. Absolutely. If you go to the
Tide.
Go to the Explorer. I think this is an upgrade from the Boon, I believe. It's a little bit more.
So then it looks like a slight upgrade. Bigger kitchen, more open floor plan.
I think my cost on that one, like if we're in a super high end area and the comps will support it, we'll do this when our cost is like maybe 8 to 10 grand more or 5 grand. I'm not 100% sure. I need to check the invoice, but it's really, really nice. But this is what's working, guys. I mean, for you guys that are, want to know what's working as an investor to make money, affordable housing. If you want to make money from a rental property game, we have an Elation model, which I sell. I have my dealer's license. Allies Wholesale Depot is the name of my company that we wholesale to investors that want to do it themselves. But I also started this because I wanted to vertically integrate and buy directly from the manufacturer at cost so that I could get the best prices and flip them myself and have something that is sustainable going into the future as far as flips, right? This is what's making me a lot of money. We have 17 of these going right now that we have lots and mobile homes. As a matter of fact, Chris is lent on, I don't know, I think you have probably about half of these, I would think, probably 2 or 3 of these. Some of these we haven't started yet. We've just bought the land and we're sitting on the land. But this is a great opportunity for you lenders that want to get into an asset class that is safe, because you got to be careful right now. If you got flippers that are flipping $1 million homes or even $500,000 homes, they're running the risk of, days on market, having to wait 6-8 months to sell it if it's too high, or even 3 months. We have not had one of these sell in less than 30 days. Most of them sell within 2 to 3 weeks, and some within 3 to 5 days.
I also wanted to mention, Private Money Club folks, when these deals come available, Chris's deals never really make it on Private Money Club, and because he's got a laundry list of people. And I saw a message from Lisa earlier pop up on here. Boy, I miss Chris Rood deals, because, a lot of people tried different deals, but Chris has always been kind of that steady Eddie. But the problem a lot of people had with your deals is they were in and out of the deal. So, it was just more transactional work, and they kind of wanted to do something long. But a lot of people are now wanting that. They want to get in, make their money, get paid back out, get back in on something new. So, Stephen, can you go through and just hit some of the questions, and we'll just kind of call them out, and Chris can answer them live? And then we got something really fun we did, Chris, that I want to get into in the last half of this. So, folks, there's something really awesome, because there are opportunities. Chris, do you have any opportunities right now, or?
I do. I have 4 lots under contract right now. So I have 4 opportunities right now. If y'all want to reach out to Chris or Brandon, if y'all are interested in funding that, we can definitely have a conversation. And it's safe. I mean, it's the same thing as a single family home. It's just a little bit more trickier with the title work, because we have to get a title for the trailer, and then once we get the order number for the trailer and we drop it, then it becomes real property. But it's all the same process. You first position, your money is backed, and you have the lien on the property and the trailer itself. So if you're interested, get with Naugle or Brandon, and yeah, we'd love to start doing some deals with you guys that are on Private Money Club. But like Chris said, I mean, this is about a 3 to 4 month process. For people that it's not like it's going to be a long-term thing, but in this environment, you may want to get your money, go in and out, and it's faster. It's safer. Yeah, you're not going to get the money you would on a buy and hold, or maybe a development where your money's in there for a year or two, but you're recycling money, and it's safe. And it's with a good operator that's proven, like me, I've done damn near 800 to 1,000 deals by now.
It's been a lot. What else we got, Stephen?
And I'll start with David here. He just said, can these trailers work well in cold areas of the country? I'm in Alaska, and this is intriguing.
I don't know about Alaska, but I mean, I know there's a ton of trailers in Ohio, so I would say yes. I mean, they're insulated with with insulation, just like a brick on slab house would be insulated. You have framing, and then the insulation, then the sheetrock. So I wouldn't see that being a problem. I would assume if I'm that guy in Alaska, I would just Google in Alaska where you're at mobile homes for sale, or mobile homes. There's got to be a dealership somewhere in Alaska that's selling them. But I could be wrong. I really don't know, but I would assume so, because I know there's a ton of them in Ohio, and they can handle the heat, and they can handle the cold also.
Oh yeah, plenty of them here in South Florida. All right, so Paul said, can you ship a Boone model to Europe?
I cannot.
Okay. Moni says, what happens when the hurricane or tornado comes to visit? I couldn't be in that uncertainty.
They're wind zone, right? So every municipality has a certain wind zone. Like if you're in South Louisiana, where I'm at, you have to have a wind zone 2. Some parts of Florida, you need wind zone 3. Depends on how close you are to the coast. But these things can handle up to 200. Wind zone 3 can handle up to 150 to 200 mile an hour winds.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, they build them nowadays, Chris, it seems like, where they're just as strong as, a frame home. I mean,
well, look, I own 9 mobile home parks in South Louisiana. We've had, probably 5 or 6 hurricanes in the past 10 years hit Louisiana. I have not lost any trailers from the wind. You know what I did lose trailers from? Trees. Yeah. The trees falling. The tree didn't hold up as good as the trailer. These trailers are strapped down and anchored down into the ground about 2 or 3 foot at every corner and throughout the whole trailer. So they're anchored down so tight that it's harder. I mean, they hold up better than a 100-year-old tree that gets torn and broken and falls on a trailer. So I've never lost any trailers from a hurricane or a tornado. But I take that back. I did lose 3 tornadoes last year in Pensacola at a park I had, not from a hurricane, but from a storm that came through, and a tornado went straight through the side of the park and wiped out 3 or 4 trailers. But that's tornado. That's tornadoes a little bit stronger than hurricanes. Actually, I take that back. It wasn't from, we didn't lose the trailers from the tornado. We lost all the trailers from trees falling on the trailers in that case too. So no, I'm not worried about the wind.
Yeah, I mean, it's usually not the hurricanes, it's the tornadoes that spin up from the hurricane. And that's what we had last year down here. And it just, I mean, just leveled big, beautiful homes like gone. So if you're in the way of those tornadoes, it doesn't matter what you're in, it seems like. But good question, though, Moni. Matt said, thank you. I'm planning on hoping both can be done with also having a personal policy. Okay, this is different. Sean said,
Well, we actually have something that we're going to show Matthew. So in a second, we prepared something. Craig prepared something that'll kind of show you very similar to what you're asking there.
all right, Sean said, what's the deal on these? Like, what's the split he's offering? Well, we're really offering this as an opportunity here. He's more talking about it, but go ahead, Chris. I don't know if you want to talk about that side at all.
Yeah, I mean, if they want to be a lender on it, typically we're paying 12% is what we're paying. It's first position. Your money's gonna be in the deal minimum 3 to 4 months. But look, I'm open to anything. It's really a case by case basis, right? There is no set policy, but I typically pay 12%. Now, as far as if you want to be an equity partner in it, we can't. I really don't. There's probably no room to be an equity partner unless we're doing a development. I would probably let investors in and come as an equity investor if we're doing maybe a 10 or 20 acre development for a mobile home community that we're dropping double wides. That's a possibility. I actually have a couple opportunities, right? We're looking at 8 to 10 acres. We have one 10 acre and one 8 acre parcel. We're looking at in the outskirts of Tampa right now to develop. That could be a possibility to either be an equity partner where you actually fund the deal and you make profits when we make profits. Now it's going to take a little bit longer, but you'll make more money, and it's going to be a little bit more riskier because you ain't going to make money unless we make money. But I wouldn't say it's much of a risk because it's such a hot commodity. Or you can just stay as a lender, right? So that's really going to be a case by case basis.
What are you guys' thoughts on doing affordable housing, still single family homes, actual,
Well, we're still buying single family homes and flipping them. We're just not buying anything over 250,000 that needs to be renovated. Whereas before I would do anything from, with economy and interest rates were low, I was doing anything from 500,000 and below. I refuse to do anything above 250, and sometimes even not even 250. I try to stay at 200, 225. And there's not very many single family homes that you can find right now, brick on slab, that are that price. But I can still find them in certain markets. Louisiana, Panama City area, I can still find some homes or trailers that we can flip. But most brick on slab houses right now are 250 and above, even distressed.
Yeah, I mean, where I live, there's zero under 250. Anything under 250 is going to be a mobile home type deal, and some of them are nice, man.
Yep.
Grace, I said, yes, my daughter has a double wide in Michigan. Very cool. Morgan said, do you buy developed lots or develop them?
Both. Ideally, we'd like city sewer and city water there, but most of the land we're buying, we're having to drop a septic tank because it's rural. Typically paying $5-6 grand for a septic tank. I don't want to have to drill a well if I don't have to, but we budget that in, and we do all our due diligence with the city to see what's required to get all that done. And like I said, ideally, city sewer and city water is ideal. What are upfront utility costs? Typically, to tie into electrical, every market's different. It's going to be anywhere from $3,500 to $5-6 grand. In Louisiana, it's more in the 3,500 range. In the Florida markets, cost me about $5 to $6 grand to set up electrical.
Okay, cool.
And some of you guys may want to do this yourself. If you want to do it yourself, I've got 2 options where I can sell you the trailer, and I have trainings on this. So I can help you in that. And 3 options here. You can lend to me and I can do it. I can sell you a trailer and you can do it yourself. Or if you don't understand the process, I can sell you the training on how to do it.
You still doing your masterminds, Chris? Your allies masterminds?
Yeah. I am. I'm hoping Naugle can come to one here soon. We talked about it recently. Maybe the next.
I'm going to get there, man. I'm on a little moratorium for flying right now, but I got a trip coming up in 2 weeks to British Columbia, so hopefully that'll get my plane legs back on. But then I'll get down there. I want to talk to your group about Private Money Club because with all these deals and these opportunities, and now you can facilitate, like you just said, your own deals, but they go so fast. And I know that's always the problem. Like we do a webinar like this with 200 people on here, and everybody's like, hey, how do I get in with Chris? It's like, if a deal comes up for Chris and you don't get a hold of Brandon and get on the list right away, then you're never going to hear about Chris's deal. So you might want to just do them yourself.
Yeah, you need to get with Brandon and get into tell and stay on Brandon and say, hey, what deals does Rood have? And ask them every week, because every week I got deals, but they're gone. They don't even need to get posted on Money Club. Just get with Brandon and we'll get y'all squared away if you guys want to be a lender or a partner.
Absolutely. Love it.
What other questions you got for me?
Somebody asked, how much is the minimum for investing? So we've done lots of deals with Chris. You know, I've lent on tons of your deals. And a lot of times what I'll do, like I have family members. Chris, you don't even know any of my family members, but what I'll often do to kind of get my uncle Paul, who, you know, he might have 20, 25 grand he wants to get in, I'll lend on one of your deals, and then I'll just backfill my uncle Paul and my aunts, you know, they might have a small amount just so they can get in on the deals and get their money working for them where normally they couldn't. So folks, that's how I'm doing it with my family. I'm not suggesting that's how you all can do it, but find a couple people, you know, let's say you've got 10 grand, 20 grand in your self-directed IRA or in your IBC policies. Like get a couple people together that you know, like, and trust, and then go together with it. And as long as your state allows that, then there's nothing wrong with it. When I do it, you know, my uncle Paul and myself are in on that deal in first position, because we're allowed to do that here in New York. So again, Brandon could kind of give you, you know, some pointers on how to do that, and then you could work with your attorney to set it up. But so when you ask about the minimum, it's more how creative can you get, and how creative is your attorney to make the deal work? That's I think more the question you're looking for.
Yep.
Oh, so that website, Brandon, can you put that website up again for Chris's? Because Michael was asking about that.
That's the website if you want to buy trailers from us. Allies Wholesale Depot is and we only sell to investors. If it's kind of you can't really do, if you're trying to buy one for yourself to live there, it's going to have to be cash, because we don't, it's so cheap. We only charge like 5-10 grand above sticker price on the wholesale model. So if you go to a dealership, you're going to pay about 20-30,000 more, but they also going to, you have to do all your own setup. You have to manage all that stuff. So if you want to be an operator like me, I can sell you the trailer. I can sell you the training. But most of you guys look, I'm going to be honest with you. I've watched a lot of, investors the past 10 years, and I'm going to be honest with you. You know who's done the best the past 10 years? The lenders. The lenders.
Always. Listen, the ultimate in real estate is and always will be the person who's the bank, right? So the ultimate in real estate is being the bank. So that's why we teach, all of you need to learn how to be the bank.
The reason I say that is because when the market pulled back, it was easy to make a lot of, I'd say second-class operators they just got their ass kicked because they weren't real good operators, and the lenders got paid no matter what. And what happened is a lot of lenders got deals that should have sold in 2 or 3 months, and it took 12 months, and the lender made more money than the operator, and the operator had to bring money to the closing in a lot of cases. And I'm talking a lot of cases of people I talked to, it took a year to sell, and the lender made $35,000 on lending on it, and the operator had to bring $5,000 to the closing in a lot of cases. So I think long term, it depends on where you're at in your season of life. If I'm sitting on a pile of cash and I'm 40, 50 years old, 60, dude, I'm lending. I want to be in y'all's position in 20 years. I'm 44. I'm by the time, and I enjoy operating and I'm good at it. I've been doing it a long time, but lending is absolutely the best position. It's truly passive income outside of having to wire the money to the title company and sign some paperwork. You're truly in the best position because you're backed by an asset that's got equity. At least with my deals, there's always tons of equity in my deals. So if I were to default, if something would happen, you're actually gonna make more money if I have to give you back the product.
Absolutely. Yeah, but we just can't seem to get you to not make the payments on the deals.
Never not made any payments, never not had anything default. I
Never.
can't say haven't lost money. I've lost, I've done over 800 deals. I've lost money in about 7 deals. So 7 out of 800, I would say, is pretty good. I mean, the cool thing about, the bad thing about entrepreneurship, you almost expect it to bat 100. In real estate, you expect it to bat 100. In baseball, if you bat 300, you go to the Hall of Fame. If you bat 300 in business and entrepreneurship, you go into the poorhouse. So you can't be no dummy and do this. If you guys want to be an operator like me and get training, this is not for the faint of heart. You're dealing with a lot of moving parts. It's very cumbersome. You're dealing with blue collar guys, the setup guys, the utility guys, the plumber, the HVAC, the trim out guys, the whole process, right? I mean, it's not as easy as it looks. If you understand the game and you're a good communicator and you can handle all that stress and you want to try, take your shot at it, I can definitely help you. But lending is where it's at, and I would tell you, if you are going to do this, just make sure you get some training and you know what you're doing.
Absolutely. All right. So, Chris, what we're going to do is Craig and Brandon kind of got together and put together some really cool stuff. Craig, are you ready to rock with that?
Always ready.
What we want to show you here, folks, and Craig's got this whole thing is, I've lent on a lot of Chris's deals. Most of the lending I've done on Chris's deals have been done from my policies, from my infinite banking concept policies, which is my private banking system. So we wanted to just kind of show you what this could look like. And this is just a random example that we're doing. This is not a real deal, but it's just an example that kind of gives you some of the mathematics behind it. And another thing I've lent to Chris with is my self-directed IRA. So whether you've got old retirement accounts or you've got new monies or existing policies, like all of these are going to work the same. It's just the pot of money where the lending comes from, that's going to vary. Breaking news, this just in. Are you sick of having your money lying around not doing anything? Well, we've got the solution for you. PrivateMoneyClub.com. Back to you, Chris.
So we're just going to run through a couple examples. And like Chris Naugle said, this is, a couple examples, not anything specifically tied to a unique deal, but it will show how the money can be flowed through a policy and then put that into private lending. And so what, one of the things we want to make sure everyone understands is your situation may be different. You may not be doing a policy with these exact numbers. They may not be exactly what we're showing here, because until you go through underwriting and build your own policy, all of that stuff is kind of particular to you. But I think the principles of everything we're going to show will apply to everybody, is how we can run money through a policy, put it into a deal like what we've been talking about today, and create some of that passive income. And so what we've done is we've built, and I'm just going to put this in slideshow mode, make it a little bigger. So what we've done is just put an example policy together. And what we're doing here is we've got a one-time dump in going into a policy of $100,000. You might go, wow, that's not me. Well, maybe it's 10,000, maybe it's 20,000. It just depends on what your specific situation is. And just like Chris was saying earlier, get with Brandon. If you can't make, say, 100 or 50,000, maybe you could be paired up with some other folks that can make something like this happen. But regardless, let's just say in this case, a person was putting in $100,000 dump in, and then every year they would just add $12,000 of annual premium. These are all the ingredients. I'm not going to go into great detail about all of this, but these are the ingredients inside of the policy of how we built it. So it is a specially designed whole life policy. All the things we teach every week on how to become your own banker and how to build a policy. So if you want more details, happy to answer questions on that, but those are the main ingredients in the policy. Now, I'm just going to go over this briefly. This is what we call a cash value analysis. And if you just look down this column, this is the funding that we will be doing into the policy every year. And there's a couple different scenarios of what I'm going to be showing, but one is taking kind of at year 3, say year 7, year 10, just taking some chunks of money and putting it into a deal. And then I'm going to show you another strategy, which is put the pedal to the metal and just take the maximum cash value from the policy and put it to work right away. So depending on if you're kind of risk adverse, you want to go a little more cautious, there's some different strategies you can do, but I'm going to show you a cautious one and then a pedal to the metal. So if you're a pedal to the metal person, you might like that one better. So, but in the policies, what we're essentially doing is funding those policies with a dump in and a premium. And then what we're looking at is what is the available cash value that we can use. So it's typically around 90% of this cash value we're able to pull out and put to work. In this case, it's showing a cash on cash, which means we put in 112. We have 103,000 to use. We have about 92% of that within the first year. So we've had a lot of trainings on policy design, how these work. So I'm not going to go into great detail on that today, but this is a pretty highly efficient policy where we're getting more than $1 in and out of the policy by the end of year 2. So we've got about 111% cash on cash, which means Put in the 12,000, we drew 13,323. So we're getting about $1.11 back for every dollar that year. So this is pretty cool by itself. If we just had a policy and we just funded the policy, this is what it would look like. But all the things we've been talking about today have not been, let's just leave our money sitting around. So now we're going to take that money and put it into a deal. So let's just say, for example, you found a deal, you're maybe getting involved with a mobile home project, and you're going to put in about $100,000 of capital investment from your policy. The deal is going to pay you 12% annualized. So every month you get $1,000 check, or maybe at the end of that deal, you get $12,000. It just depends on how the deal is structured. What we're going to do with that money is we're going to take all of the gains and just run it back into the policy. So as that 100,000 is making that 1,000 a month, we're just going to put it back into the policy as a loan repayment, because we took a $100,000 loan. We're just going to funnel it back in to pay it off. All right. So what does that look like? Oh, before we do that, we're going to have two different cash flow models. So model number one is more of the conservative approach, where we're going to do releases of 100,000. So for example, by the end of year 3, let's say that we start this policy, and then by the end of year 3, we're going to go and deploy $100,000 into a deal at 12%. We're going to run all that money back into the policy. And then at year 7, we're going to take another 100 out and put it to work. So we're doing a little bit of release and recapture, release and recapture. And so by year 3, 7, 10, and 13, or those are just the numbers that I picked in the model. So we're not fully utilizing every dollar inside of the policy. Maybe you're holding some of that back for emergency funds. Maybe you're holding some of that back for additional opportunities, but this is just one model of how it could be done. Okay, so let's see what happens here. What I want to do is just kind of walk through at year 3 what the money looks like. So remember, when we started this policy, we put a $100,000 dump in, and we've been putting in $12,000 of premium. So by the end of year 3, we're going to take $100,000 out of the policy as a loan. We're going to put it into a segregated account. And why are we doing a segregated account? One of the important things to remember is when we fund our policy, it's not actually a bank account where I can write a check against it. So what we're going to do is link a separate bank account to that policy so that we can transfer money in and out of it. So now what we're going to do is take that 100,000, put it into our segregated bank account. We're going to get all the paperwork. Let's say we call Brandon up, and Brandon's help us do all the paperwork. We're going to put our 100,000 into our first deal, and we're going to buy some mobile homes and get those affordable housing units deployed so people can live in them. So now that we have that $100,000 deployed, we're going to be making 12% annualized on that money. So by the end of the year, whether that was $1,000 a month or it's 12,000 for the year, that's how much we've gained, is 12,000. So in this model, we're going to take all those gains and just run it right back into the loan repayment. So you'll see there's a thing that says principal of $12,000 going back into the policy. And if you missed Wealth Webinar last week, Chris and Steven and I went through how loans work inside of the policies. So if you want more information on that, just go back and watch the replay from last week. We did a deep dive. It was about an hour and a half on just how loans work. But essentially what we're trying to do is just recapture some of those gains, apply them towards the policy loan to buy that loan down before we go deploy more money. So this is more of a conservative approach. All right. So by the end of year 3, cumulatively, you would have added about $136,000 into the policy. Your net benefit, which would be the cash value that's in the policy, the amount of money you have deployed in that private lending deal, plus your gain, adds up to about $137,000. Now you also have a death benefit of $1.7 million. So by the end of year 3, a lot of you might be looking at this going, well, whoopee, Craig, that's a 1.3% cumulative return. That's not that impressive. But we have to realize with infinite banking, what we're talking about is a long-term strategy. We're spinning up a flywheel that's going to start spinning really fast in the later years. So we're giving a little something up to get something bigger in the future. However, we have a $1.7 million death benefit coming along for the ride. So if God forbid something happens to us while we're doing this, our family is going to have way more resources than they would have otherwise if we would have just done this with cash. And that's frankly just the trade-off that we're talking about is, are we willing to give a little something up to build this bigger system down the road? But that's kind of what the picture looks like by the end of year 3. So now let's jump over to year 5. And in year 5, we've got a loan balance of about 85,000. So we brought that down from the 100 that we borrowed. We're not taking any money out at year 5. Remember, I'm only doing that at year 3, 7, 10, and 13. However, we still have that 100,000 out there generating 12,000. So we're going to run that back into our policy and pay down that $85,000 loan by about 12,000. So the reason I'm showing this year is just to show you that while we're not taking money out of the policy, we're still out there generating passive cash year over year by continuing deploying to new deals. And we're going to buy that loan down, the loan balance down, while we're still, accumulating and growing and compounding. And the only reason we're doing this is it's just the safer approach. It's kind of more of a conservative approach. Now, by the end of year 5, we've cumulatively put in $160,000 into the policy. Our net benefit, and again, the net benefit's going to be the cash value in the policy, plus the amount of capital we have in our private lending deal, plus the gains. So now we've got a $183,000 net benefit, net benefit, but a death benefit of $1.8 million. So by now it's starting to get more exciting because now our cumulative return is 14.825%. We're starting to spin that flywheel up. So it's looking kind of fun at this point. Let's just jump to 7. I'm going to drive through these because it's just kind of repetitive, but now when we take that 100,000 out, deploy it into the private money club deal, we now have 200,000 out there working, generating 24,000. So now that 24,000 goes back into the policy. So by end of year 7, we put in 184. We have a net benefit of 242,000. Death benefits 1.7, and we have a cumulative return of 31%.
I think that's the important one to look at right there, Craig, because this is where, you're talking, this is 7 years of doing it. In the first couple of years, you might be like, this isn't very good, but there's I'd beg to differ, or some of you might beg to differ, but try to find something else out there that can give you the same type of cumulative return as this. Because you won't, because this has that uninterrupted compounding working for you 24/7, even when you're making money in the deals. So you're making money twice on every dollar. That's the unique part about this.
And this is a pretty safe approach too, where we're kind of leaving some money into the policy for other opportunities or emergency funds, whatever it might be for you. But we can drive this, higher, and I'll show you that in just a moment. But yeah, those are great points. These are, awesome returns in a safe way. So, the other thing to remember is we've got this 200,000 that's out there working. That's also collateral based, as opposed to putting it in something like the stock market, where if that goes down or you lose, you get a piece of paper that says thanks for playing. So it's all about the safety and control at that point. So let's go take a look at what's happening at the end of year 10. By the end of year 10, we've put 216 in. We have a net benefit of 359. So now we're at about a 66, percent cumulative return. We have 300,000 out there working because we just added another 100 to the picture. And then finally, let's just hit year 15, and then we'll go to the other model. Year 15, we're not putting any new money into the deal. But we've got, because year 13 we've got about 400,000 out there working. So remember these numbers, and I can come back to them, but at this point we've put 270 into the system. We have a net benefit of 644,000 and a cumulative return of 138,000. And so this is what it looks like if we just kind of sprinkle that 100,000 in 4 times over that 15-year period. Now, is there a way we could drive this a little bit harder and maybe get a little more gain? So if you remember that, just kind of take a mental note of that 644. Matter of fact, I'm going to jot it down because I'll probably forget it. And then the 138% return. And let's go see what happens if we change the model up a little bit. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take the maximum loans every year. So we're going to be putting money into the policy fully leveraging that policy, putting that money to work. And something else that's different is we're only going to pay loan interest now, and we're going to take the gains and reinvest those into the deal. So at this point, we're going to let the capital or the principal of the loan continue to grow, but we're going to really maximize the investment side where we keep as much going there and working as we can. And this is just a more aggressive approach. You might want to do something like Model 1, or you might want to do something like Model 2, or something in between. But I wanted to show those two strategies just so you can kind of see how things play out. So year one, we're going to start at year one as opposed to starting at year three. And so by year one, we're going to put in that 100,000 dump in. We're going to put in our 12,000 premium. We're going to get about 93,000. This is just kind of a rough number, but let's say we put that 93,000 to work. It generates 11,165. All right. So here's where it's a little different than the first scenario is we're going to take a little bit of those gains and we're going to put it back into the loan repayment just as interest. We don't want our loan interest to compound on us, so that's why we're paying that off. That means we have 6,513 remaining of that 11,165. And guess what we're going to do with that? We're going to reinvest it into the deal. So we're going to take that and add it to the 93 in year two, plus we're going to fund the policy and we're going to take the maximum loan out. And so I'm just going to jump to year three to show you kind of what that looks like. So year three, we put in 12,000. And actually, I want to stop at this point because in year three, something really cool is happening. Do you see how we put 12,000 in premium, but we're taking out 12,686? Am I now getting more out than I'm putting in on a year-by-year basis? So, and that actually happens in year two for this policy, but that's pretty cool, isn't it? I have a system where I'm putting $1 in, I'm getting more than $1 back. That's, yeah, exactly, Shane. That's the money tree bearing fruit. And so now what we'll do is we'll take that 12,000, we'll put in our segregated account. We'll take the 8,133 that was the gains from year two. We'll add those two things up. We'll deploy it to our private money deal. So we're going to add another 20 grand to our private money club deal. At 12%, that's going to generate 15,883. And what we're going to do is scrape a little bit of that for loan payment. And then we're just going to keep doing the same thing over and over and over. So every year, we're just going to keep this up for 15 years. So, at this point, by year three, we're at 14, percent, cumulative return. Let's just jump on down to year 15 here. I think everyone's getting the gist of what we're doing here. So by year 15, we're putting in 10,000, we're pulling out 23. We're putting the previous year's gains along with our 23 we just pulled out. So now we've got 705,000 out working. And in our previous model, remember we had 400,000. So by being more aggressive, we were able to build a bigger pile of capital out there working, generating $84,000 in gains a year. All right. So for those of you that were scribes and took down the numbers, do you remember what the net benefit was in the first example I shared? Because now we're at 810. Does anyone remember what the net benefit was in the first model I showed? Were you all sleeping? Let's see. If you know what it was, put it in the chat. But it was $644,000. So by being more aggressive, we were able to build a bigger net benefit by keeping, leveraging the policy loans. So we were able to build more of a net, a higher net benefit. And then our cumulative return was 138 in the last model, and now it's 199. So those are a couple of different models that we can show you. But like I said, whether you want to be fully leveraging the policy or whether you want to be more conservative, you're going to be somewhere in between these. This is kind of what it could look like for you if you were implementing the same strategy. So Chris, those are the two models I wanted to run through. Any questions come up?
Yeah, well, we got Matthew who asked the question earlier, which I thought, the stuff you prepared would have answered it. But let's hit Matthew's again. He said, when starting out, can the premium be monthly $500 into the policy instead of $6,000 to have the cash value first month? So the answer is definitely yes there. Also, can you add an unfixed amount as long as it adds over the yearly deposit? Thanks. And that's my last question. I think I'm debating whether to do with what I have or save up aggressively to also dump in, but either way, start out about 500 a month is what I'm approved to do both ways. Craig, I'll go first. I would say don't wait, just start. Most of my policies, especially all my original policies, never had dump-ins. I didn't do dump-ins into my policies until probably policy number like 9 or 10. Every other policy was just a flat amount per month, because most of my policies are funded monthly. And I don't say that very often on here, because a lot of people, like, we show annual because obviously that gets all the money going in. But from my cash flow standpoint, I fund most of my policies monthly. I think I have one quarterly and then a couple annually now. But Matthew, I started with a small amount and I started doing it monthly, and it started building, and I started using that money on a quarterly basis to pay off debts, and I just kept compounding it and compounding it. I have a bunch of YouTube videos that show those original policies that I started. I mean, we're going back into the early and mid 2000s, and that literally just shows you the power of compounding interest. So Craig, what would you say to Matthew?
No, I think that's spot on, and I wouldn't wait until you get to a certain point to build up a dump in, because if you continue to use this process throughout your life, you're going to continue to build more and more policies, just like what Chris was saying. And so maybe on your next policy, you could do a dump in, you could do an annual. So it's important to get started, because there's a few things at play. One, we don't know if we're going to be insurable next year. That's never guaranteed. So wouldn't it be better to start something and get going now? And the other thing too with policy design, and this is when you have a discussion with our team and we have a strategy call, there are some methods we can use to build in a little bit of fluff on those policies. So that could be another approach, is maybe you build it with a little bit of room in it if you think you're going to be able to build, get to that. So
yeah, and folks, myself and Steven have been posting links to set up a call with the team. So if any of you have situations, that you're thinking are different than what we showed, you're like, I wonder if I can do this, I wonder if it would work for this, just book a call, and then we can kind of walk through your individual situation. But, just kind of want to go through just final recaps. Craig, before I go into the final recap of the session, is there anything else you want to mention?
No, I really wanted just to show a couple different models of, because we do get a lot of questions about, some people are more conservative, some are more aggressive, and whether you want to step on the aggressive pedal and go faster, you can. Some people like to take more of a conservative approach, but the beautiful thing about it is you want to fund the policy, and then you want to find a deal, and then it's up to you how much leverage you want to take to accomplish your goals. And so hopefully you're able to see a couple different paths there. And if there's any questions, put them in the Q&A and we can go back over them. But really that's the main thing I wanted to show and share today.
Awesome. And the whole point of us doing today's topic, bring Chris Rood on, is to basically explain to you that affordable housing, it's not a trend. It's never been a trend. It's always been a tidal wave. It's always been a necessary part of the housing market. And, I think the biggest thing is, over the last 5 to 8 years, so many people have just missed this because we've gone after the glitz, the glam, and I hate to say it, but the overpromises. And a lot of folks that we know have gotten caught up in that. And now you're kind of swimming against the tide, so here, ride the tidal wave, surf this son of a pup, because it's going to keep going. I mean, it's like the endless wave you get on. If any of you are surfers, like, it'd be that wave, you just keep getting that perfect left or perfect right, whatever you like. That's this. It's affordable housing. And yes, it's not sexy. It's not like you're going to go to your family and be like, look at this house I just lent money on, or look at this, house I'm developing or flipping. Like, it's a mobile home, and nobody's going to like pat you on the back and be like, oh my God, that's incredible. But when you show them your bank account after doing this, that's what's going to get people excited. So I think the best way to do this is, like I mentioned earlier, and I say it again, many years ago, I was told by a very dear friend of mine now, but back then he was just somebody I looked up to. He said, the ultimate in real estate is being the bank. And I had no idea what that meant. Literally, I can tell you what me and Larissa thought it meant is, we got to flip our way to make $1 million and then we can be the bank. But that is not the case. And we have now learned that literally we missed so many years trying to think that that's what we needed to do, is make $1 million so that we could be the bank, when we missed the whole boat of what being the bank is all about. Being the bank, folks, is all about you taking back the banking functions in your life. It's just not giving up interest to the banks. It's controlling all of that, controlling your money. And that doesn't matter whether you've got $10 million or you've got, $10. Well, $10 might be tough, but let's just say like $1,000 a month or $500 a month, like you were hearing from Matthew. I mean, whatever your number is, the minimum is 10 times your age. So take your age. I'm 48, add a 0. That's 480. That's your minimum monthly you need to start. Okay, so if it's any less than that, then yes, you got to work up to get to be 10 times your age. But anything over that, it's game on. Get started. Let compounding take advantage and let it really, really benefit you, because it might not benefit a lot in the first couple of years, but as you saw from Craig's example, like those later years, I mean, come on, those numbers aren't made up. Like that was exactly what that would return to you. The cumulative return you were looking at. I mean, it's the real deal. Plus, the other thing too, and I try to mention this on every webinar, is the death benefit, the death benefit, the death benefit. I know some of you are single and you're like, I don't care about that. I'm taking it all with me while I'm here. That will change. I promise you. Have a child. I got a daughter, and that's all I care about, is leaving her in a better place when I'm gone. So folks, that death benefit, although it wasn't very important to me when I was in my 20s, now it is one of the most important things. When I'm looking with Brandon at all of my policies, and I've got lots of them, the first number I'm looking at is, Brandon, what's my death benefit? It's completely the opposite of what it used to be, but it's the most important thing for me now. Not that I'm old by any stretch. I'm 48, and I like to think I'm going to be here a long time, but you know what? That is what drives me, to make sure that I've gotten ahead of it, that I'm preparing my family so that when I'm no longer here, they can continue the lifestyle. And listen, all the while, I'm going to keep being the bank. I'm going to keep using that cash value over and over and over again and controlling all my money. And I want all of you to do the same. So somebody had asked me on a podcast yesterday, he said, when did you go from using this to actually teaching this? And I guess I'd never been asked that. But there was a point literally where all I was doing is using it. And I was using it on debt and real estate and all sorts of things and business operations. And then I was having Brent come out and speak at my RIAs. And I'd sit in the back of the room, literally back left corner. Joseph Kovacevic sometimes would be there right next to me, because Joe was one of the hardest clients for me to ever get to do this, because he always thought he was smarter than this. He's like, oh, it's just not mathing for me. I'm like, whatever, Joe, just keep watching. It took him like a year and a half, but I'm sitting back there and I'm just listening to Brent present. And then people would ask questions, and I'm literally answering the questions before Brent could. And then it came a time when Larissa was like, hey, you got to serve Brent. You got to see, how can you help Brent? Because he was tired one day. And that's when it all began. I literally went from being the student to being the teacher overnight. You never know when that's going to happen, when that flip's going to happen. It just comes upon you where you start to realize, I've learned so much. It's time for me to serve others. It's time for me to give. It's time for me to go out and solve other people's problems, because my problem was solved using this concept, using this process. And now I'm going to go out and I'm going to help solve other people's problems. And that's where it all happens. So folks, no matter where you're at in that process, you might be brand spanking new. This might be your very first webinar you've ever attended. Get in the game. Get around the campfire. Join us for Ask Me Anything Happy Hour this afternoon at 4:30. You can do that by just subscribing to my YouTube. Make sure you click the bell and it'll notify you every time we go live. You can do that by booking a call. I'll have Stephen put it up there one more time. Book the call with one of our mentors. We're not going to try to sell you anything. That's not what we do. We're going to talk about your needs, your goals, your problems that we're trying to solve. We're going to then show you a solution to your problem. And if we can solve your problem, we don't have to ask you to buy anything. We don't have to ask you to do business with us. You're going to ask us to solve your problem. And that's how we built this empire. That's how we're going to build it into the next decade. We're going to keep doing the same thing, and that is just serve others, solve other people's problems. And that is the best advice I can give all of you. Go on Private Money Club. Let me just show you something. It was kind of funny when Chris was talking. This just came up, and I'll finish with this. It was just kind of ironic. I just went into PMC while he was talking, and look at this. Mitzi was just at PMC's Money Tank out in Texas, and she also is an affordable housing expert. She does a little different concept than what Chris Rood does, but look at this. This is one of her deals. This is a mobile home right here, 16 to 24% passively. You'd have to learn a little bit more, but it's 19% interest, 144 months. So she does a little different approach. She's not flipping the mobile homes. She's buying them, and then she's fixing them up and renting them out. And what a great great business model. But it doesn't matter what you're into. If you're that's 30 grand for hers, this deal's 250, this one's $5,000. I don't know enough about it. I'm not endorsing any of these deals or anything. I'm just saying, look what's available on here. You know, everybody thinks, oh, I can't get into lending because I don't have a lot of money. I said the same thing. But how many deals have we just seen? A $5,000 deal, a $30,000 deal, a $25,000 deal. This actually might be a mobile home, a $40,000 deal. You don't need a lot of money. Although if you have a lot of money right here, 4-unit rehab, that's a bigger deal. So there's all sorts of deals, but get in the community. Post whatever you want. Just tell people who you are. Like this person here, Jamie, she's just telling you who she is. Share what you've done. Tell people who you are. Share some photos of yourself and just get on here. Start making friends. Post your high school photo. What the hell? I mean, no reason not to. Show people what you looked like when you graduated high school. I mean, just go on, have fun, get in the groups, you know, get in the resources, just get in. All right, so with that being said, folks, I'm psyched that you were all here. We've got this other thing too, and I'm gonna just put it out there, but it's called MSTV, Money School TV. You just want to learn more about it. It's our community. It's where we're putting up a lot of content. All the mentors are posting on there on a weekly basis. We've got tons of recordings that you'll never see on YouTube. You'll never see us talk about in any public setting. They are literally for the Money School community. So if you're interested in it, it's $19 a month. So it's not expensive. $190 a year will get you a yearly subscription to it. Tons of value. I think it's one of the most action-packed values you can get for the dollars. Just go to moneyschool.tv, moneyschool.tv, and you can learn more about it. With that being said, Stephen, you want to close this down?
Yeah, sure. I just put a link for Money School TV over in the chat box. Yeah, I haven't really said much today, so I don't know how to close it down, but definitely give us a shout, schedule a call. Like we said, you know, everyone's situation is different. Every single policy we design is completely unique and different because of that. So connect with us. Let's talk through your situation. If infinite banking, if a specially designed whole life policy makes sense for where you are financially, we can show you what that would look like to get that started and help you do so. If you aren't ready for that yet or need to do some things first before getting started, we'll also give you that advice and try and guide you and show you what that path looks like also. We were looking at some data recently, and most of our clients are with us for something like 9 months before they actually do start a policy, from when they first start watching our content to when it finally does click and they get going. Now, we obviously have clients that hop on the very first webinar ever and they're off and running. There's a lot of people like that, but there's a lot of people that are like Joe Kovacevic also, that takes time of seeing this many times before it clicks and they understand it. But everybody in the end becomes lifelong clients, and we are all lifelong students. You know, Chris, Craig, myself, our team, we're constantly attending insurance company trainings. We're constantly attending masterminds, going to other people's trainings. Like we were just talking about attending Chris Rood's masterminds. I've been to him. Chris is going to another one again soon. So we're always all learning, and we take all that knowledge, we implement it ourselves, we share it with you all on these webinars. So I'll invite all of you to continue joining us on these weekly webinars. We do 6 of them free of charge every week. We do a 7th one now each week that's part of MSTV, so that is $19 a month. And those of you that are Premier members in Private Money Club, we do the monthly 2-hour mastermind as well. So a lot of virtual learning, and of course our live events are amazing. We are planning the next PMC Money Tank event in Orlando, Florida, and that's going to be November 7th and 8th. So keep your eyes open for that coming up. But get around the campfire, connect with us when you need that support, you need that help. We're right here to guide you along the way. So appreciate everyone being here today. Chris, it's nice to have kind of the little trio back with all your travel, my travel, Craig's travel. It seems one of us is always missing, but it was a lot of fun today, and appreciate Chris Rood, like always, for leading by example. That guy is a hustler, a no nonsense, no bullshit type of guy. And those are the kind of people we love to do business with and partner with. So appreciate all you guys.
Couldn't agree more. Thanks for joining us for this wealth webinar. We'll see you this afternoon at Ask Me Anything Happy Hour. Till then. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. We're putting up tons of them, but I think if you like this one, you'll probably like that video as well. Not only that, I've got a book that I created, Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery, where we actually show you what the wealthy do in the game they play with money. I want you to have that for free. And if you want to know about all my new videos coming up, click that alert button. Actually, smash that alert button, and you'll be notified every time we put a new video. So we'll see you on the next episode.